Lane transition. What is it? Well, the other day, a customer came to me and she had a league printout that showed her average in game 1, game 2, and game 3. And between game 1 and 2, there was a huge disparity in her average. And I believe it's because of lane transition. She thought that it was her bowling performance. She said, why do I bowl so bad in game 2? Well, understand that every shot that we throw down the lane and everyone else's shots, we're picking up that oil that was applied to the lane. That's why you see the rings on your ball when it comes back, called oil rings. Well, that oil is being removed from the lane. So every shot you throw, that lane is getting drier and drier. Now, if you put a lot of people around the second arrow, let's say, then it's going to dry up so much quicker than most people give it credit for. In fact, that's what makes the pros so good, is they feel this transition. They recognize it even before it's obvious. So many of the pros are adjusting even before an adjustment is needed. That's because they don't want to go high through the nose, leave the big split, and then make the change. They want to make it right when they need it. And they bowl so often, they recognize this change before anybody could possibly recognize it. They remember how year over year, hey, wait a minute, in game 2, this is what I did. In game 3, this is what I did. And they're really good at it. Well, amateurs just don't get a chance to bowl as much as we do, so they don't realize the rate in which that change happens. So don't just think that it's you when you start playing bad. Sometimes it's just adjustments are necessary. Maybe it's a ball change. Maybe it's an increase in speed, a lateral movement as to maybe migrate toward the center of the lane where most of the oil still resides. So we first have to recognize that a change is needed. Then we have to determine what type of change is needed. And there lies the problem. Well, I have been striking for 5 or 6 shots now, and this line's really working good for me. I'm just floating the ball out to the gutter. I got a good return back to the pocket. But then all of a sudden I leave this 4-pin. Now I have to determine at this point, was it me? Did I throw the ball as to leave a 4-pin, or is it the lane changing? And so I ask myself, off your hand, was that a really good shot, one that you would expect to strike, or did you feel like you may have thrown it like a 4-pin? Well, in this case, I really liked it off my hand. I didn't feel like that it was supposed to 4-pin at all, but I'm going to stay in the exact same place, and if you see, all of my shots start creeping higher, almost Brooklyn even. This is because the lane is changing. I'm getting an earlier hook and more response out of that hook than when I was lined up originally. Now I have to determine at this point, do I want to make a micro adjustment, something just like a couple boards to the left and roll the same shot at the gutter? Or do I need to move zones? Do I need to bail on this strategy altogether? Because it's not always one change that's needed. And in one center, more ball speed might be the best selection. But in another center or another day, a ball change. The next day, a lateral movement. That is what makes this so difficult to keep up with. Now, we have to realize there are a lot of different types of equipment out there. Some of the bowling balls are designed to hook immediately, and some of them are designed to go way down the lane and then take the sharp angular motion on the back end. We have to realize over time, when the lanes are transitioning, do we need to go to a weaker ball that goes way down the lane and retains its energy? Or do we need to move even further and take a stronger ball? We're just tapping into our experience to give us our best guess. But it's a guess. But over time, we get better and better with it. So let's go now and see what a lane might look like after a game of bowling, 2 games, 5, maybe a whole league night. I got a pattern here that really plays good from the outside. And so I'm going to select a strategy, let's say first arrow out to the second, third board, maybe 4-2. So let's roll one down the lane. Now, as my bowling ball goes down the lane, it's going to be picking up the oil that was applied to the lane. And it's going to be distributing some of that oil to the back end, making it a little less reactive as time goes on. And then I'm going to play here, let's say 4 or 5 shots. After, a half of a game, this is what I'm starting to build. See, I'm tracking out this shot, say from about 4 board at the arrows, swinging it out a little bit. This area is becoming a little drier, a little more response. But wait, I'm not bowling by myself. So let's say Mike Machuga comes in and he decides that he doesn't like the outside part of the lane very well, and he's going to start at around this third arrow. So let's catch Mike up with me. Wow, that's a nice shot he just threw. And here comes the second. Yes, now we got Mike. He's caught up with me. But hey, what about Wes Malott? He really likes to hook the ball. So let's put him on the lanes with Mike and I and see what he's doing to the lane. Well, he really likes to play inside. Gets a lot of curve on that ball. So here's where Wes Malott would be. And then let's catch him up to Mike and I. So here's what it looks like in the middle of game one. You see, it's starting to change, and rapidly. But then what does it look like after the game is over? Full game of bowling? This is what it looks like. We also have some spare shots going down the lane. We'll put those in blue because spare balls are typically plastic. They're not going to pick up quite as much oil in the front part of the lane. But because they don't flare and the oil just sits on the outside, they deliver 2 and 3 times as much oil to the back end, really tightening it up. And this is the picture that we're building in our imagination. And we're trying to develop our strategy, which is ever changing based on the changes of the lanes, based on this mental picture. Sometimes our picture is accurate as ever, sometimes not so accurate. But we have a picture in our mind of the destruction that our bowling balls are doing to the oil pattern that was applied to the lane. But what does it look like after 2 full games? Wow, now that's interesting. You see how Mike Machuga's ball track is now drying a part of the lane up right to the left of where I'm wanting my bowling ball to start into the pocket. So now every time I miss just a little bit to the left with my shot, my bowling ball gets onto his ball track and right through the nose. All the while, Mike and I both are building a little more traction so that Wes Malott's ball always comes back, sometimes even too much where he's head on. So he can now throw his bowling ball up against our ball tracks, and with the revs that he likes to put on it, it's like a big wall. He's just banking it off our ball track after game 2. But then let's lay the third game down. Ouch! A lot of destruction here. Lines going everywhere. In our mind, this is what we're seeing. Just traffic everywhere. But we're still trying to determine where on the lane and how we should roll the ball as to create the maximum amount of margin of error to the pocket. All the while, keeping that ball driving the pins so that our carry percentage is way up there. But you see how in game 3, no matter what I do, my bowling ball is going to go through the nose. Because I've tracked the lane up where I'm playing. Mike's tracked it up just left of me. And then here comes Wes. He's really doing me some serious damage because most all of his shots come in just left of mine, way down the lane. I am in trouble. I'm in need of a change. I may think about having to move zones at this point. Same with Mike Machuga. See, Wes is doing him as much damage as I'm doing Mike good. So he's kind of right in between. And I think Mike and I at this point need to do a little more of what Wes is doing, which is get to the inside portion of the lane where there's still a little bit of oil left and see if we can't just throw the ball up against that dry that all of us created. Now, this is in a 3-game league process with just 3 bowlers. But we'll need to stay on top of this condition. Make our adjustments just prior to a bad result. Kind of anticipate the change that's about to happen. Move in front of it so that you can constantly keep your ball in the pocket. A lot less splits and a lot more consistency. So given all of our options to adjust to this lane transition, it's the pro's ability to manage, whether it's speed or a migration left or a ball change. Those are the things that are going to keep that pro on top of that condition. So effective management is what normally separates the good pros from the great ones.